Hi folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly check out Epic Roll. It's for 2 to 3 players, ages 14 and up, and the average play time is about 15 to 20 minutes. With regard to the age requirement, I think you can bump that down to 8 plus, not 14 plus. A competent 8-year-old should be able to play this game. It's that simple. I think the fear on the developer's part was that he was afraid that younger kids could potentially put these pieces into their mouth. And in most cases, I would totally agree with that. As a parent, I would completely understand that. If you have a toddler, for example, that loves to put inedible things in their mouth, then yes, definitely keep them away from this game. But again, a competent 8-year-old or a mature 8-year-old will be able to play this game without a problem. Okay, assuming that they don't put things in their mouths constantly. But anyway, getting back to the game, this is a rolling dice, push your luck kind of game. Basically, there are 3 character classes in the game. Each player gets to choose a character class. The wizard has the blue die, the elf has the green die, and the warrior has the red die, and they have different symbols on their faces. The wizard is sort of like a glass cannon. There's no shields on this die, but there's a bunch of 2X's and some blanks. The blanks are misses. So basically, this wizard has a lot of damage potential, but can't block and will often miss. The warrior has 1 blank, has a shield, and a 2X. So he does have a lot of damage potential, not as much as the wizard, but it can do a lot of damage. He can block somewhat, and he has a rare chance of missing. The elf is well-rounded. 2 blocks, the rest attack, so there's no blanks whatsoever, so he doesn't miss, but doesn't have any 2X's, so he does the least amount of damage out of all of them, but is the most consistent. So basically, each player is going to choose a class, okay, and your object is to race across your path to the end here and defeat the Lich. The first person to do that will win the game. Players that are on these spaces here, as they're going along this path, will face these green dice here. These are the easy monsters. And then when they hit this center space, they level up and they get to add this die to their roll. This basically, if you roll a star, you get to activate your special ability. Each character has their own special ability. And it's actually listed on the back of the rulebook here. The wizard gets a block, the warrior gets to heal, and the elf gets a hit. Okay, and speaking of manual, for those of you that want to check out the components, here's the box insert there. Here's a look at the manual. It's not very big. It's very easy to play. You've got some cards over here. As you defeat monsters, you get to draw a card, and these cards allow you to do special things. You can heal, you can play a block or an attack, for example, as you're rolling dice in order to improve your chances. So basically, these are sort of like reward cards as you kill monsters. So how is this game played? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to pick a class, put your token on that appropriate space. Let's say a 2-player game. 1 player is the wizard, 1 player is the warrior. If you only have 2 players, you're not using the elf, for example, you just simply take those components off to the side. So on your turn, what you're going to do is first you're going to move to the next space, and this first space is representative of the easy monster area. So we're going to go ahead and roll this particular die here, this green one, to see what kind of monster we're facing. This says ghoul. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the tracker here. We've got mummy, ghoul, skeleton, ghost, zombie. So we're going to put, this is the monster health counter, so we're going to put that on the 4 space. And at the beginning of your turn, you always reset your health to 6. And this is where the push your luck element comes into play, because if you win this battle, you can keep going, but then you have to fight someone else at whatever health you have remaining. But if you end your turn, that's it. But at the beginning of your next turn, you go back to full health again. So you run the risk, if you keep going, you run the risk of dying, basically. So I've already rolled the die, I know what monster I'm going to face, and now we're going to roll a monster attack die and my attack die at the same time, and we're going to keep doing this until someone dies. So at this point in time, the monster rolled a blank, I rolled a blue attack, so the monster loses 1 health. Okay, so now we get to roll again. Okay, we've got a 2X and a blank. This is going very well for the wizard, so that's 1, 2. So he's almost dead. Alright, 1 more. Alright, we've got 1 hit and a blank there, so I lose 1 health there. I'm down to 5. Again, we're going to roll. Alright, hit, so each of us gets 1 damage. Okay, so this means that I'm at 4 health. I've defeated this monster. Now I have a choice here. I can keep going with 4 health and face another monster and try to win that battle, and again, trying to get to the center space. Or I can just stop what I'm doing and let the other players go. Now, because I beat this monster, I get to take a card and then use it on a future turn. or in a future encounter, rather. Now, once you hit this center space, this is reserved for you, meaning that if you die, you don't automatically go all the way back to start. If you were to die on the 1, 2, or 3 spaces here, you would go back to start, but if you make it to this space, you level up, you get to take this die and roll it along with your regular attack die, and anytime you die after that, let's say you're here and you die, you'll end up going back here. So this is sort of like a checkpoint or halfway save point kind of thing. So yeah, it's basically it. You're going to be racing across this path, trying to beat the other players and then get to the Lich. Now when you're on this spot, you're going to go ahead and roll this brown die to determine what monster you're going to face. And again, the ghost and the zombie and the banshee, they have higher health than the other ones. So these are harder monsters. And on top of that, they've got like 2 X's on their die. So basically, they're a lot tougher to beat. The Lich uses the advanced one, this advanced brown die, and has a special power-up die, which is similar to the hero's level-up die, which basically, he gets to use his special ability whenever that star is rolled. And if I'm not sure. Battling the Lich power die, I'm not exactly sure. Oh, heals 1 point of life. Okay, so if the Lich were to roll this, he'd heal 1 point of life. So that's basically it. Players are going to continue taking turns, trying to get as far as they can on their turn by pushing their luck. But again, if they die, then they have to go back to either this middle checkpoint or to the beginning, depending on where they died. And the first player to get to the end here and beat the Lich is the winner. Okay, so there you have it, a quick look at Epic Roll. It didn't go over all of the rules found in the manual, but this should give you the general idea on how the game is played. As far as what I thought, it's a pretty cool game. I like the fact that each of the 3 characters has a different die, so it sort of adds a little bit of uniqueness to the game. If you want to play a glass cannon, for example, you know, as the wizard, you could be the wizard. If you want to be more consistent, you can be the elf down here. That's one minor quibble that I have about the game. This is a wizard, this is a warrior, and this is an elf. Okay, a wizard and a warrior are classes, and an elf is a race. Okay, if I were to change anything about this game, I would rename this guy a rogue or a ranger, something like that. Because a ranger is a class, a rogue is a class, an elf is a race. If I were to go by race, it would be human, possibly dwarf, and elf, if you were to do this by race. So that's the only minor quibble I have here. Other than that, I mean, the game is pretty cool. I like the fact that there are different monster dice. Each monster has their own set of health, and this is primarily luck-based. I mean, there's a little bit of strategy on knowing when to stop, but at the same time, I mean, on your turn, you may have the unfortunate luck to roll a bunch of skeletons, whereas your opponent, the skeleton has 5 hit points, by the way, whereas your opponent may just roll a bunch of mummies, so you don't know. So there is some luck factor there. And there's also some luck in the dice that you're rolling. So, you know, you may roll a bunch of blanks, unless you're the quote-unquote elf. I'll call them the ranger because I feel like it. Unless you're the ranger, in which case you're bound to get either a block or a sword. Now, by the way, if you happen to roll a block, that negates all damage. So if you get like if the monster die gets a 2x, and you roll a block, this negates that damage. You don't take 1 damage, you negate all of it, which is pretty cool. And again, there's some other rules I didn't go over, like, you know, the different cards that you can play in order to boost yourself and that kind of thing. But overall, Epic Roll is a really fun game. It's quick to play, and again, a competent 8-year-old could play this. Don't be intimidated by the 14 plus that's listed on the back of the manual here. So that being said, if you guys want to check out my quick written review, you can. I didn't write up a full written review on this, just simply because I have, well, I'm going through some medical issues right now, and I'm under a lot of time constraints, and it's not feasible to write and record a video at the moment. But I still have a quick blurb about this game, so go check it out, www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, that way you can keep up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.